I'm officially obsessed, and you will be too. If you haven't tried Lem by Hello Nancy yet, what are you doing? Over 1 million women are using it, and the reviews are wild. One girl literally said, "Join the incredibly satisfied brigade." I didn't believe it until I tried it myself. The hype is 100% real. Don't let the cute design fool you. Go to hellonancy.com and see what the hype is about.
Okay, so why don't we start off with, I think, what everyone wants to know. What was the craziest thing that happened on One Day at a Time?
Well, Patrick, crazy. There were a lot of moments that pop in my head when you ask that. But I'll share with you the first week I ever got on the show. Remember, the show had been on for 5 years prior to me getting on. And so I get on the show. I had known Valerie before through mutual friends. I had done a pilot with a guy that she was dating, so on and so forth. And but that first week I was on the show, it was my first tape day. We shot in front of a live audience. I was very excited. And I'm sitting backstage, and who walks in but fucking Eddie Van Halen? And I'm like, did I just see that right? Like, is that Eddie Van Halen? So I'm like crazy. I'm 14 years old, right? Loving Van Halen, like rock of God. He was like so hot in those days. And I'm walking around saying, who can I tell? Who can I tell? So I see Valerie in the makeup chair, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think Eddie Van Halen just walked in. And she looked at me and she went, yeah, that's my new boyfriend.
From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux, he's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's guest, Glenn Scarpelli.
Patrick Labyorteaux Show, he's the one you gotta know.
We're going into the beginnings here. I want to introduce you to this fantastic guest that we have. You may know him from One Day at a Time. I know him from the teen idol machine of the 1980s and Tiger Beat, baby. Please welcome Glenn Scarpelli.
Dude, thank
How you doing, Glenn?
For having me. First of all, I just love seeing you so much, Patrick. When I think of the times and the memories that we have, all I do is smile. There's only positive, wonderful thoughts about our friendship.
Thanks, man.
And really,
Same here.
So nice to connect after all these years, truly.
Well, we were just right before we started, we were talking, and the whole idea of what was interesting about that is during the 80s, and I'm sure, every era has its group of people, but there was this group of kids that were in these teen idol magazines, the Tiger Beats and the 16 magazines. And it was a small group of people that you can explain it to people that weren't in it, but talking to someone that was in it, it's a completely different experience. So I'm glad to have you here. I'm really proud of you. And I'm excited to talk about all the stuff that, you've gone through and your career.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. I thank you for thinking of me, and just seeing your handsome face makes me so happy.
I love it. Keep the compliments coming.
Act 1, beginnings.
I want to start. We start every interview with the beginnings here, but obviously I do research, and so I'm looking at this crazy IMDb of yours, and it starts off. I'm a big comic book collector. It starts off that your dad. I want to start there. Your dad was involved in Archie comics.
Yeah.
How's that go? What's that all about?
My dad is a cartoonist, a famous illustrator. A lot of people don't put us together, but some do, of course. I'm so proud of my dad's career. My dad, has been gone since 2010. So his legacy is certainly lived on by all the art and work that he has done in Archie Comics and in the daily strips and the Sunday funnies. And he did it all. So he drew for Archie, I don't know, 40 something years. When I was growing up.
What kind of connection did you have when you were a kid? Did you read the comics? Did you know Dad drew, or what was it?
Well, yeah, Dad drew. Dad drew at home. He would go into the office every so often, but because he had been there for so long, he kind of was able to, make his own way through it. And he wanted to work from home, and he would send it in or bring it in once a week and so on and so forth to hit his deadlines. So he worked at home a lot. So I got to sit on Dad's lap when he was drawing Archie Comics. And, it's interesting because when I was younger, I don't know if I had the perspective of who these characters were and how they were touching so many millions of people and generations. Because it was just the characters my dad drew in the basement. You know, like
Now, my dad is also an artist, or was, he passed away as well. And there's a fascination I had with wanting, obviously you want to be your dad at some point. You want to do what your dad did. Did you ever get into drawing or art or anything like that?
You know, I've certainly tried, and I can do a little bit. I still do some charcoals and stuff just for a meditative way, for my own fun. But it wasn't my calling. And when I decided very young, I set foot on stage in kindergarten, and I went on stage and I was like, I'm home. So I was ready to be in show business. So I begged my parents for years. It took about 3 years to wear them down to actually get me in the business. I got in the business about 8 years old. But because I chose a creative path, like my dad being a creative himself, was so supportive and helpful and proud, actually, that I wanted to be something creative, and he saw something in me and believed in me, both my parents. But speaking of my dad, I didn't have a dad that was like, get a real job,
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he got what I was going for. And
well, you led into it really great as far as obviously your answer to the question, how do you get involved in acting, is you hit the stage and you get hooked. And that was your experience. You got hooked from kindergarten.
Yes.
You were close to New York, if not in New York. So obviously that's a great resource for the business. In fact, us Hollywood kids. What's that?
Geography was on my side, I always say.
For sure. Because us Hollywood kids, we had that, they cast somebody from New York attitude. Like, there's always some kid from New York, which we never knew about because you can't watch, Broadway plays. You can't do you just hear about these things.
Right. Please
tell me how you really got into acting. What was the big thing? Because you've got 2 Broadway shows that are just insane. Please tell me that story. How did you get into Broadway?
Well, like I said, I begged to be in the business. I did meet a manager. A friend of mine was doing commercials on Staten Island, New York. That's where I was born and raised. 25 minutes from Midtown Manhattan. So, again, geography. And she had a manager, and my mom was talking to her mom, and they said, you should meet my manager, Muriel Carl, on 8th Avenue. She used to smoke cigarettes. 8888 8th Avenue. And she was like one of those agents for kids. And I met with her, and she signed me, and I went on my first audition, which was a Celeste frozen pizza commercial, and I booked it. And that just gave me such a great sense of, this business is cool. So I started working pretty realistic and in big projects right away. The first Broadway show I auditioned for, which was in the first year of being in show business, really, was Golda, starring Anne Bancroft, who at the time, of course,
holy shit,
married to Mel Brooks. So Mel was on the set quite a bit, at the theater quite a bit. And I also got to know Golda Meir because she played a big role in, the development of the play. So that was just such an incredible experience. We went on the road, Baltimore and Boston, before we opened on Broadway. And, just having that.
Now, I got a chance to work with Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles. So I know his attitude is just, he's funny, he's friendly, he's inclusive. I also ended up working with Carl Reiner and Howard Morse, so a bunch of these people from your shows, and I saw all of that. I also have read a lot about Anne Bancroft and their son. Their son tells this crazy story that Anne Bancroft is like this. She's like always worried about everything. What was your take on Anne Bancroft? She seemed on the outside like a really sweet lady.
Oh my gosh. Sweet isn't the word for it. And so a couple things just popped through my head when you were talking was, number one, Max was about 4 or 5 years old during Golda. So
okay.
I'm a bit older than him, just by like 4 or 5 years. And so I did get to know him. He was this little kid. Mel was the stay-at-home dad when Anne was working on Broadway. So Mel had really Max as, his main function, and would bring Max to the theater just to visit with Annie and whatnot. And Mel always says, Annie's the funny one. People think I'm the funny one. Annie's the funny one. And it's so true. She was freaking hilarious, down to earth, just, I mean, we were the only two wops in the show, right? Because it was basically a Jewish show, but she and I were the only two Italians. So we bonded in that way. She was always so wonderful to me, always showed me so much grace. Really was one of those people, I would say, that was someone I honored and learned so much from, because she taught me very early on to how to be famous and kind, and famous and humble, and really to appreciate the art. I worked with a lot of people, and we'll mention a few others, Al Pacino, Audrey Hepburn, who really were, really taught me about the art of acting. Like, none of them seeked fame. They all just wanted to be the artists, the best artists they could be. And I think that's
now, because this is like your first, obviously not your first play, I would imagine, but your first Broadway play.
No, it was I think it was my first play.
Well, but you did that thing in kindergarten, so it's not like you hadn't been on stage.
Right.
But the reality is that I'm thinking, I'm going to answer your question before I ask it, is when you're walking into a Broadway play with Anne Bancroft, it might be better to have no knowledge and experience, because then everything is sort of like the way it is. It's not like you're expecting or you're nervous. Or did you know who Anne Bancroft was, or the magnitude when you walked into it?
Yeah, so I'm that guy that even before I got into show business, saw all the movies. I used to love MGM musicals. Like I knew show tunes and would sing them for the family, and so Mrs. Robinson was certainly on my radar. The song "And Here's to You, Mrs. Robinson." I loved Simon and Garfunkel. I actually got to work with Paul Simon years later.
Wow,
which was fantastic. So I was very aware of what I was stepping into, who I was working with. Were
you intimidated, excited? What was the feeling?
I don't know if I ever got intimidated as a kid. I think that's one of the joys of being a kid is, you don't think too hard. And, I mean, you just kind of like, because I wanted it. And this is something else too, Patrick, that I should talk about as child actors, is some of our friends that maybe struggled were people that were forced into the business.
Yes.
Is how I see it. So those of us that had good experiences and came out on the other side, normal. I don't want to say normal because I don't know what the hell that means. I don't think you and I are actually normal, but
no, far from it. But I understand we're healthy enough to live a life where we're not, we're not brought down by our job.
Exactly. And I think a lot of that is about the passion we had towards what we were doing, and Golda was my first real chance to go, like, this really is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is incredible. I mean, like, Golda, like I said, was wonderful coming to rehearsals and such. And then she was there for opening night.
Wow.
Farrah Fawcett came to the show. Sammy Davis Jr. came to the show. Like, I got to meet all these stars. And what was great about Annie for me was they were friends of hers, and she would introduce me, and they just became people,
Right.
Which I think was a real key to moving forward in my career as I started to work with some stars. I mean, I worked with Ethel Merman. I did a pilot on CBS with Ethel Merman. And, I mean, I loved her. I mean, I used to, like I said, I was like Mr. Broadway kid. I would listen to all the Hey, Get Your Gun soundtrack and Gypsy and, all that stuff. And, but she was a person. And
was this the period of time? Because I wanted to figure out your connection. I thought it might have been Norman Lear, but now I'm thinking, is this where you met Danielle Brisbois, or was this before or after?
No, I knew Danielle before Norman.
Okay, yeah, because she was in Annie.
We recently saw each other at Norman's Memorial, and I hadn't seen her in many years, but we've kept in touch throughout the years. Really, Danielle has been one of my buddies throughout my life.
She was a big. My brother did a movie called King of the Gypsies where they played brother and sister. He played a young Eric Roberts, and so we went to New York, or my brother was in New York, and it was this weird production where he was the cover set, so he was there for like months, but not really working. So my mom brought me out just to like have a friend for my brother. And Danielle was doing the movie, but she was also in Annie. So we must have seen Annie about 100 times.
Wow.
we ended up, I tell this story on TikTok, we ended up going to Studio 54 with the girls from Annie. Did you ever end up at Studio 54? Because it was a weird, okay thing to do back then for kids to be there.
Yeah, it really was. I was friends with all the girls from Annie. I was doing Golda when they were doing Annie. So it was around 1977, I believe, is the...
Yeah, 77, 78 is right in that,
78,
sweet
right
spot.
And Golda ran for a little over a year, I believe. So I was close with those girls, Sarah Jessica, Andrew McCardle. Like I knew them. And
did you happen to know Randall Brooks? She was
Randall. I love it. We still talk on Facebook all the time.
I don't know if you know this, and again, this is interviews turning more into about me than you. Randall and I had a singing act where we would sing at Sanger Harris department stores in the Midwest.
No,
when my momager wanted me to be a teen idol, a teen singing idol, like Leif Garrett, which we'll get into your experience. And so me and Randall went out to these department stores and sang in the Young Miss department.
Wow.
But I love Randall. And so, yeah, another Annie alum.
And
now let's return to our regular scheduled interview with Glenn Scarpelli.
Let me just say, Randall could sing. Like that chick can sing.
Oh my gosh.
But
yes.
look, Danielle, I was 6. She was 6. She reminded me because I was 6 when I met you. So it was our Broadway connection. Yes, before Norman discovered her or me,
right.
Whatever. But
so you're doing these plays. Was Richard III at the same time, or was that after when you came back?
Richard III was 79, so it was shortly after Golda. That was an incredible experience. The audition process was fantastic. I finally met Pacino for the final audition, and I read it. It's Shakespeare. I'm, whatever now. I'm 11 years old, 12 years old, whatever that is in that vicinity. And I don't know what the hell I'm reading. You know what I mean? It's Shakespeare.
Right.
That one, it was not on my radar necessarily at that age. I've heard of him, but yeah, that was about it. So he after I read, he grabbed my hand. He walked out into the area where all our moms were waiting, and he said, "Who belongs to this one?" And my mother said, "Me." And he said, "I'd like to take him downstairs and buy him a Coke and just kind of discuss the play a little bit. Is that okay?" And she was like, "Sure, okay." So he had a cup of coffee. It was snowing. It was in Soho in Manhattan, and it was snowing and it was freezing. And so we went down. He had a cup of coffee, and he says, "So do you know what this play's about?" I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Let me share something with you. I'm your uncle. I want to become king. You're in line for the king. I need to kill you to become king." Because that's kind of what in a nutshell. And then we started going through the scene and certain lines, and all of a sudden, all these light bulbs started going. Like he explained it so beautifully to a child, like what this means and what that means, and our relationship, and you're needling me, and all this stuff. So all of a sudden, I feel like I got the scene, like I actually got it. So we went back upstairs, we read it. They said thank you. We left. No cell phones in those days.
Right.
By the time we got back to Staten Island, which took a while because it was snowing, the phone was ringing, and I got the part. So it was that.
And again, you're walking into obviously at this point, you can't, if you live in New York, you can't not know who Al Pacino is, let alone a movie buff.
Italian,
but I had one other guest on the show.
Italian New Yorker.
Yeah, there was a guy that I had on the show, Dean Devlin, who was Al's driver. And he then later went on to produce Independence Day and, all these great movies. Yeah. But he explains, Al is kind of like a quiet guy. How did you find him?
No, Al was very quiet. I would certainly call him an introvert. A lot of people don't realize, and I know you know this being around so many actors, that a lot of actors are introverted. Everybody thinks everyone is gregarious, but that's not true. It's like the way most actors could find their way to express themselves is through playing other characters. So that's very common. Al was certainly that person. But he opened himself up to me. And I just think maybe it was because I'm a child and I was, I don't know. But I'll share one thing that he did do, which was very interesting. It's very into energies, right? So when he would walk, first of all, he didn't take the star dressing room. He gave it to all the ladies on the show. And he was on the second floor. And it was just my dressing room and his dressing room on the second floor. And it was these tiny little rooms at the Court Theater on West 48th Street. And he would leave his dressing room and he would just kind of touch people as he would walk to the stage. Just kind of just put his hand on their shoulder and kind of just touch people. And he would always like just hold me. I wouldn't say anything. No one would say anything because we knew he was getting into, going on stage. And he would just touch people. And then about, I don't know, when we got to New York, because we were in Philadelphia at first. When we got to New York, he said, "Hey, listen, would you stand in the wings and be the last person I see before I go on stage?" And I was like, okay. So I did that. And I have this very vivid memory, Patrick, of opening night on Broadway, Richard III, starring Al Pacino, and Lee Strasberg is in the audience. Like, it was a big freaking deal, And I'm getting chills talking about it right this second because it was just one of my, I treasure this memory. And I memorized it even at that age. I was like, I have to memorize this moment because this is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I stood in the wings and he just touched me and the house lights went down. He was holding my shoulders and the house lights went down and they gave him his cue and he walked out on stage, "Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by the son of York." And he started, performing Richard III on Broadway, officially opening night. And I was I had that moment with him right before he went on stage. It was just me and him.
You were his ground. You grounded him to the piece. It's amazing.
And I think
you describe it so well.
Like, children have a purity. We're not, they're not taken into all the stuff that life gives them and baggage and whatnot. Like, I think what he got from me was just this calming, childlike quality that he wanted to feel right before he went on stage. So, I mean, it was really that's.
Well, we could end the interview right there. I mean, that's an amazing story, but unfortunately, you haven't even really started. It's crazy. So I would spend some time here, but there's so much more to talk about with Contact 321 Contact, which was it was kind of like a kid's show from New York, I would imagine. I never saw it, but I'm imagining.
321 Contact. Yes, I was on a segment called The Bloodhound Gang. So many people still remember and come up to me about the Bloodhound Gang. I had no idea it reached that many people, honestly, but a lot of kids watched it in school. It was a tool for the education system. So, yeah.
So, my brother did a TV show called The Red Hand Gang, which it sounds like it's a ripoff of your Bloodhound Gang.
Or vice versa.
Or I doubt that anyone ripped off the Red Hand Gang.
I'm officially obsessed, and you will be too. If you haven't tried Lem by Hello Nancy yet, what are you doing? Over 1 million women are using it, and the reviews are wild. One girl literally said, "Join the incredibly satisfied brigade." I didn't believe it until I tried it myself. The hype is 100% real. Don't let the cute design fool you. Go to hellonancy.com and see what the hype is about.
Back after these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. And I'm very excited to announce that we have a brand new class called Adult Weekly Class. Now, what is that? Now, that's a class that'll meet every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and you come in and you have an hour-long acting class with other students. It's very, very simple, very, very fun. So if you've ever wanted to be an actor or try it or just mess around, these classes are great. So the Adult Weekly Class is going to be every Wednesday at 5:30 Pacific. Now, come and check it out. It's going to be really fun. Go to workingactorschool.com. Check out the website. You can sign up for the class there. If you need any other information, there's a phone number and an email on the website. You can get it there. And we would love to have you come and try. Talk to you soon.
to success.
Let's get to Hollywood here. What was, I guess, an existential question. I remember, like I said, he is some kid from New York. What was the perception in New York of Hollywood and going to Hollywood? Was it an okay thing, a bad thing, or
Well, there's
sellout
always
thing?
been a little rivalry between New York and Hollywood. And I was certainly a New York actor, but my dad loved Hollywood. Like, he was trying to get us out there forever, and mom was never wanted to move away from her family and all this other stuff.
Right.
And I'm an only child. So it took me really getting a series to get us out there. I had done a couple other pilots. The pilot where I met Valerie Bertinelli, because I did it with her boyfriend at the time, Scott Columbi. And what got me out there truly was Valerie and Scott came to see Richard III. I introduced Valerie to Pacino, and she was so excited.
Wow.
We were walking out of the theater, and I didn't do that with everybody. Let me tell you, it's not like I overstepped my place.
Right.
Like, meet this friend. But Valerie was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to say Val. I mean, it was just like a cool moment for me. I was being selfish. So we're walking out of the theater, and Valerie says, Glenn, if there's anything I could ever do for you, just let me know. And I kind of was like, Valerie Bertinelli owes me one. That can't be a bad thing, right? So come to Mackenzie gets fired. My mom is reading in TV Guide that they're looking for a 14-year-old boy for One Day at a Time. And she mentions it to me. So I reached out to Valerie through my agent, and I got an audition. I always say she got me the part, but she always corrects me because she goes, I didn't get you the part. I got you an audition. You got yourself that part. But
that's always true. But I hear exactly what you're saying. I mean, the connections is a big part of this business.
Well, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
Yeah. So, but both Bonnie and Norman always loved working with theater actors, especially working in that kind of, live audience scenario, waiting for laughs, so on and so forth. So they really wanted they really wanted a child that had some theater credits. And Valerie was like, I saw him on Broadway with Al Pacino. So it got me the audition.
So, okay. So Valerie Bertinelli, obviously One Day at a Time, she becomes a big star. She's a big star from One Day at a Time when she comes to see the show, because you join in the 6th season?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Early.
Because it was similar for me on Little House. I was in the 4th season, so I was literally watching the show before I was on it.
Me too.
And so, were you doing the same? Were you aware of the show? And
I was a huge fan of One Day at a Time. All of Norman's shows. I was very attracted to that humor, to the change that it made on television. Going from shows, that were about, we burnt the turkey, to real life. You know what I mean? Like, to real life stuff.
I'm laughing because I did a show with my wife called See Dad Run, where that was one of our episodes. And so I know exactly that episode. And that's why it's so, and in a weird way, our producer on that show was Patricia Foss-Palmer. So I know the connection she had to Norman Lear, and like, she was ride or die when we were working with her for Norman Lear.
Yeah. I just texted with her yesterday. We're really close, Patricia and I.
She's fantastic. She's a producer. She produced One Day at a Time. She produced our show, See Dad Run. And like, talk about a person who knows her shit.
Yeah.
But I'm getting way, way ahead of myself. So you're going out to audition for One Day at a Time. Obviously, we get it now. You're professional. You go in, you do your job. What is kind of interesting to me is, and again, you can tell personal stories if you want, but it's not what I'm after. But the whole idea of One Day at a Time was like a toxic waste site of issues from the outside. Right. Everyone in town knew that, that's a troubled set, is what they said, versus, like, to example, Little House, which is like, no, it's not. We had a benevolent dictator in Michael, and everything was fine. But Norman Lear is a firebrand to begin with his storytelling. There were issues with Bonnie. There was issues with Mackenzie. I don't know about Valerie, but I know that it was just, everyone was talking about all the issues. What was your experience when you joined this show? What was it like for you? What was the real deal?
So, and I'm going to say this because it's been out there. But I'm not here to put Mackenzie down by this statement because she's like a sister to me and we're really close.
Of
But,
course.
Mackenzie struggled publicly with her drug addiction, throughout that entire series. And when I came on the show, because it was Mackenzie's first year off the show, it was the happiest set. Everyone was just so relieved that they
Interesting.
were able to not have that as the storyline behind the scenes. Is Mackenzie going to show up?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Going to be like it was so happy. Like everyone was just so thrilled. Season 6, just everyone just felt this huge weight of whatever all that was off their shoulders. So
That's fantastic. Okay, great.
we laughed from the moment we got there to the moment we left. There were no burdens. Everyone got along incredible. The whole idea of the creative force that was One Day at a Time. One of the things that Norman did was he opened doors for actors to play a really big part in the development of each series, and that came with pros and cons. But like we would sit Monday mornings, we'd read through the script. They'd give us Art's Deli. If you know Art's over there in the Valley. Art's Deli.
Where were you guys shooting? It sounds like you're at Radford. Where do you guys shoot?
Originally we were at Metro Media Square, which is no longer there on Sunset.
No, it's now Netflix. It's like, it's weird.
It was Metro Media Square. And then they moved us to Universal Studios, which was one of my favorite moves. Because I'll get into that in a minute. But we basically would then go through the script all day Monday, page by page, with notes from the actors, with the writers, and we would really talk about what was going on. And I say I didn't say a word for the first month I was on the show. I'm 14 years old. I'm loving the show. I've won the lottery. Like, I can't even believe I'm on the show.
Yeah.
And Bonnie pulls me over about a month into being on the show, and she's like, "Come here." I said, "What?" She goes, "You don't talk." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "We do these things and you don't talk." And I said, "Well, honestly, I didn't know I could." She goes, "You better." She goes, "I'm going to teach you how to do some notes. I'm going to teach you how to do some notes. And even if something comes out," she goes, "First of all, these fucking 65-year-old writers don't know how to write for a 14-year-old boy. They don't know what a 14-year-old boy thinks like or acts like or sounds like. So we need your input." And it was this invitation to a lifetime of education for me, really, in character development, arcs, storylines. And Norman really set that pace of allowing the cast to really play a big role in where the characters go, what is real life to them, how can they make it more authentic, how can they bring it home, and it showed.
As a fan of the show, when I would watch the show, you always make up your own backstage stories. It seemed to me that you and Pat Harrington got along and performed really well together.
Thank you.
What was there a connection there between you guys?
Definitely. And the writers felt that. In fact, Pat had in his contract, he would write 2 scripts a year. And one wrote called Schneider and Alex. And in this one particular episode, Schneider wanted to teach Alex how to shoot a gun. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be cool with my parents. So he actually called us during hiatus in the summer, and we were back in Staten Island, and the phone rang, and it was Harrington. We call him Harrington because Pat Palmer was a Pat. We had a Pat Fisher. We had a Pat Harrington. We had so many Pats on that show that we called everybody by their last name. So Harrington called, and he was like, "Hey, kid." I'm like, "Hey, Pat, what's up?" And he said, "I got to talk to your mother." I said, "Uh-oh, what did I do?"
Mother with a U.
Yeah. Yes. And I said, "What did I do?" He goes, "Nothing. I just put your mother on." So what he was calling about was asking if it would be okay to write this scene and how she would feel about it, and if she would support the fact that Schneider wanted to teach Alex to handle a gun, which shows you his character,
Right. And shows you how different everything is now, because that's a scene that never happens on TV anymore. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's just sort of like, Lear was so ahead of his time to give these storylines, and again, with his impact in the industry. And at the same time as he was doing One Day at a Time, which like the Maud was like the one that was like the most firebrand, All in the Family, One Day at a Time was brand new. No one had ever seen, like they all act like no one had ever seen a single woman on television before with kids, which they hadn't, but it's like, oh my God. And then he also had Facts of Life, which I'm assuming is why you liked Universal. You guys shot in the same area, or did you get along with them, or how did that go?
So I love the girls, like, and so it was Silver Spoons, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, One Day at a Time, and we had this in Universal is when they put all the schoolrooms together. So
oh wow, how cool!
So we had our own schoolrooms, but we were in one big trailer with doors that opened up. So very often we would truly be together, and it really felt like having a social life with other kids that really could relate to what I was.
Well, absolutely. I was going to ask because as you're the only kid on the show, basically, but obviously Little House, we're lousy with kids. We got kids coming out the barn doors, so having that connection with those other, I was thinking it was going to be the Norman Lear family. I guess it was. I guess all of those shows were his.
Jason Bateman was there, Ricky Schroeder, Tom Bridges, Gary Coleman, Dana Plato. And really the only two girls that were going to school at that point, Lisa was older, Lisa Welshel was older at that point. I think she had graduated high school by the time we got to Universal. And Mindy went
probably just Mindy and Kim.
It was actually the only ones going. Nancy, because Mindy went to her own school. She started going to her own school again.
Well, she went to that ritzy place up on Beverly Glen. Yeah.
Exactly. So she needed to, part of her contract was she actually went to school in the morning and only worked in the afternoons. So, but this.
Literally, wow, that's amazing that she literally went to regular school.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Her parents insisted on it. But Nancy and Kim, who became two of my closest friends, I mean, we're still text all the time. Nancy's off Broadway right now, and I just sent a friend to go see it, and she made sure she said hello to my friend and my friend Stacy. So it was really, I just love those girls so much. But it was like finally having a school. I went to professional children's school in New York, and I graduated from there. But I was on correspondence for practically the whole 4 years of my high school.
I went to the Valley Professional School out here where it was with Jason, Kim, Corey Feldman, Rad Daly. Remember Rad?
Yes.
I love Rad. And we all went to that school out here. But yeah, it's basically we're talking so inside. The basic idea is it's a school that gives you assignments and then you do them on the stage or you do them on set. Right. And basically the school's okay with it. You're not, it's the normal thing.
Right.
So it's like when Janet was doing Different Strokes, she was at our school, Janet Jackson, and Todd and all the people that went to school on the set would get their assignments from this one place.
Right.
So when you're out there, gosh, and Universal is so Hollywood itself because it's in the middle of everything. You've got a tour going around. You've got, and where, if I remember, I know where they shot Different Strokes. It was over by Amblin, over down in that little area right before the Hill Valley area.
That's right.
It's just a magical, and Universal is so big. It's a magical. So you gotta have a story of stealing a golf cart.
Yes, I did.
Did you steal a golf cart?
Well, honestly, it was Dana Plato stole it, and then pulled up to our room, to the school room, and said, "Glenn, come on, let's go for a ride in the back lot." And I said, Dana, I don't know. I didn't feel it. And at that point, I didn't know she was doing the drugs that she was doing. Let me just say that out loud too.
Right.
I didn't party. Like, that wasn't my thing. I was very
But the thing, I hate to keep interrupting, but the thing I remember about Dana was, I don't know if I ever met a sweeter human being. She had a sweetness about her where it was like, yeah, obviously issues because of things, which we all know about. Same with Mackenzie. I never met Mackenzie, but geez, I mean, you can understand why she had a drug problem.
Yes.
But Dana was so sweet. So please go ahead. So sweet Dana rolls up with a golf cart.
Right. I'm like, okay. I almost got fired over this. Let me just share this. That's how big this was. This became like a big fucking deal. So we go, and she's driving through the back lot. And in those days, there was that on the tour, there was like the tunnel you go through that spins like,
yeah.
Right. I don't even think they have that on the tour anymore, but anyway, it was that ice.
$6 million man fought Bigfoot in it.
Yes, exactly. So she starts to drive through that. I'm like, I don't think we should do this. Like, I don't know if we should do that. We get in and alarms are going off and sirens. Security comes and like all this shit. And we get sent to Al Burton's office. Al Burton was running the company, one of the heads of the company at the time. Norman was chairman of the board at that point, but wasn't running the shows anymore by the time we got to
Okay.
And like we got into a lot of trouble because there were like things in our contract once we moved to Universal about the tour. Like they addressed stuff.
Oh, really?
The Universal show. They were just leasing the space from Universal Studios. So like there were things about like when the tram passes, you have to wave and you have to be nice and you have to stay away from the trams and not get in the way of the trips. So there was all these, things. But I mean, we're kids. I didn't read my contract. So I just went for a ride with my friend. But we got into a lot of trouble. But I said I'm sorry, and basically I said.
Well, how do you? I mean, Glenn Scarpelli at 14 is like the most innocent little looking kid you've ever seen in your entire life. I mean, so let's talk about that. So now you're on One Day at a Time. And by the way, I want to address this because my future ex-wife Valerie Bertinelli and I have issues. Which is, first of all, we've never met, which is going to really impact our relationship. Second of all, you tell the story about Eddie Van Halen, which destroyed me. I read that and I'm like, because I figured I had a chance of being better than Scott Columbine, maybe getting a chance to date her. But with Eddie Van Halen in the picture, there was no chance for me. But I have a huge crush, still do, on Val. But you're on this show. It's a huge hit. And back in these days, 25 million is a bad number. You're all over the place.
Yes.
And there was this industry or mill or subculture of teen magazines, Tiger Beat 16 magazine. And like now they're international. I imagine that like all the K-pop stars are in these magazines.
Right.
But in our era, it was you, me, my brother, Rad Daly, Todd Bridges, Danielle Brisbois, Scott Baio, like all these different people.
Right.
What was your experience like? And were you ready for it? Because it is, I'll say it this way. It seemed like you were doing it really well. Like I saw that you got the assignment, but what was your experience from the inside of it? How were you feeling about it?
Well, this is a twofold question because first of all, I just want to say that one of the things Pacino taught me, and he actually said this to me, is never believe your own press. So that was his advice to me on a parting word after we finished Richard III. So I kind of took that to heart, and I think it was really good advice. Because part of that whole thing with teen idols is you start thinking you're hot shit and you're not really, we're just like any other people. So I feel like I had a good perspective on that. But some things we've talked about, Patrick, that I kind of think it's time to address was, the struggle I had with being gay and being in the closet for all those years was, it was painful. It was painful.
Can I ask, because I don't know because I'm not gay. When you're gay, I imagine you're gay.
Wait, you're not gay?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I'm leaving. Thanks. I was only doing this to get some. Oh.
I gave you shit because you're married, so I wouldn't go out with you anyways. But
we're not the jealous types.
So the deal is, you know what you like, but do you also have an unwritten set of rules of like, did you know not to talk about it? Did you think about, how does it go for your head when you're that age? How does it work? Sorry to like ask the biggest question of all. How does sexuality work, Glenn?
Yeah. The answer is I did know from the time I discovered my sexuality. I knew I was attracted to guys. I was into guys. So just to kind of, and I say this all the time, I've been an advocate for our rights all my life. I've marched, I've spoken, I still speak as a proud member of the gay community. Gay is not a choice, okay? Like gay is just who you are. It's like you're right-handed, you're brown eyes. It's how you're born. Like that's real. So it's part of, I think, one of the issues these days is that people think someone can make you gay or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about this right before, and I was like saying, look, ask any straight person, can someone talk you into being gay? And the answer is no. You can't. It doesn't work like that.
It does not work like that. The wiring is not that,
No.
So I just want to say that out loud first to kind of give us some context of where I'm going to go
Sure.
with all of this. So, I knew that it would not be well received. This was during the Reagan era. This is the 1980s. People were not out and actors in those days.
Right.
And I had a lot of girls fawning over me and, and all that stuff, as you know, what that feels like. And all I would think about was, so do you have a cute brother?
But what's interesting, and I'll say it like this, because my brother and I were both in the magazines, and so I had my brother there with me, so that was helpful.
Yes.
But the weird part, or not weird, but like I guess the most sane part of it all is when you're being approached by girls who see you in the magazines, it's not like what people think, where it's like come onto the back of the bus and like you get all of the girls you want and you have sex with all these. It's like this weird, like they like the actor guy. They like the guy I'm the actor, not me, because they don't know me.
They don't know you.
Was that a part for you that you kind of distinguished between they like Glenn from the show or Alex from the show and not Glenn the guy? Or
yeah, and maybe that was easier for me, honestly. Because there wasn't this feeling of, oh yeah, now they're going to expect me to take them in the back of the bus and do them. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe.
Right. First of all, I didn't have a bus, which is a big problem.
Well, you're the one who brought up the bus. Didn't you just say bus?
I did.
I didn't have a bus either.
So we're busless, and we have all of these issues.
I think we have to rename this podcast the Busless Teen Idols, because that might be the perfect title for us. So no, I think
so. Okay, so like I'm just gonna skip over to this other question that just popped into my head. So let's say I'm a 14-year-old gay kid and I'm looking at the magazines. Do those guys find you? Is there a way that, I mean, not to hook up, because again, we're 14,
right?
But like, did you ever make connection with anybody that was kind of like, I
got mail from guys, and my parents pretty much never let me see it. So, I'm an only child, Italian New Yorkers. I knew that like this whole gay thing wouldn't go over well, even in my own family. So I was under a lot of pressure to stay in the club.
You did not talk to your parents about it then?
Not until I was 20. Not until I was 20. So all those years on One Day at a Time, no. Nobody. I talked to nobody about it. But I knew. But I also was open to, well, maybe it's supposed to be, something else or whatever. I recently saw an interview. My husband, John, digitized an interview that I did with my mom and dad, actually, that was videotaped. And they asked about girlfriends, and you could see my answer of, I'm so young for that. I don't want to be tied down, and all that. That was my go-to answer.
It's have you seen the Jodie Foster interview from that same time period, when not that same time, but she's asked when she's very young, and she deflects in a way that's very innocuous, but obviously you look at it and go, oh, well, there was just no interest. I mean, she has no interest.
Right. No, I did not see that interview, but I'm going to look for it now. Because that's kind of where I was coming from in these answers.
Her answer is almost like what you just said. So it's very similar, where it's sort of like, no, I work a lot, and
Yeah. And that made it easier. But I'll share with you something. And I'm still really dear friends with Jill Whelan from Love Boat. Did you guys come across each other at all?
It's so funny. I just booked her yesterday. She's going to be on the show in an upcoming episode. And I because you did like 15 different Love Boats. I only did 2.
I did 3. But Jill and I were besties growing up. Okay. So, and we talk about this all the time because we were just so perfect for each other, because she was like a beard for me with ever having to have it spoken, because she at that point, and you could talk to her about this. She'll talk to you about this too. She was like not ready to have sex and not ready.
Right.
Just kind of like, she just didn't want to go there with guys. And there was always this stress after a fun night out with somebody. And I won't mention names because I do know all the guys she dated. That there was this pressure of having to go there and have this thing happen at the end of these dates. And with me, there never was. I never even tried to kiss her, but she was my first screen kiss. Honestly, the first time I ever kissed
Vicky on Love Boat, yeah.
on Love Boat. And
it's so funny because, obviously at that age when we're talking about it, I could make an evil story out of like how sexualized those magazines were. But from our point of view, it was just sort of like stupid stuff you'd do at Tiger Beat or whatever. But then
I never had a problem posing for those poses. There's a part of me, and I look back on this too, that has always been really comfortable with my sexuality. Like I can be sexual and be okay. Like I just don't have a hang up. Wasn't born with a whole bunch of hang ups. So it was like, have that look on my face, come get me. I got my shirt off. I never had a problem with it. I never.
No, and you had great connections with all the different magazines, but there's this weird aspect that would happen once, and I guess for Jill, once a girl turned a certain age, then she became sexualized in a way that just the dudes weren't ever. And it was like all of a sudden, hey, Vicky's looking good. It's like she's like 16, just leave her alone.
Right.
And it's such a weird, different experience for the girls. Oh, I should ask her about it.
We'll be back.
I'm officially obsessed, and you will be too. If you haven't tried Lem by Hello Nancy yet, what are you doing? Over 1 million women are using it, and the reviews are wild. One girl literally said, "Join the incredibly satisfied brigade." I didn't believe it until I tried it myself. The hype is 100% real. Don't let the cute design fool you. Go to hellonancy.com and see what the hype is about.
After these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. But we also teach kids. We have a great class called the Youth Weekly class that's every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. And it's for kids. It's for like 10 to 17. And we have a great group of kids right now, and it is ongoing. So if you know someone that wants to get into acting and has never done any acting but would love to try, why don't you have them try starting off with Youth Weekly? Just go to workingactorsschool.com and check us out. It's Youth Weekly every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. Act 3, present day. And so you're going and doing all of the things with the teen magazines. You have all this great success with One Day at a Time. What was because you left One Day at a Time to do Jennifer Slept Here.
Yes.
With the amazing Ann Jillian. I love her. But what was that experience and how did that come about? Why did that happen?
Well, NBC was kind of reaching out to me for a development deal, kind of moving me from, hey, why don't you come on to our network? And I knew One Day at a Time was going to end in that final season. So they had only offered me, I think, 6 episodes or something. Everything was wrapping up.
Oh, okay.
So it was the normal time, since there was interest at another network, to kind of jump. They put me on a daytime show over the summer called Fantasy with Peter Marshall and Leslie Uggams that I love. I just texted with Leslie yesterday. I've been friends with Peter Marshall my whole life.
I don't know if you can come up with a more 80s sentence than Peter Marshall and Leslie Uggams.
Yeah. I know. And they remain my friends to this day. I mean, Peter, we just lost at 98.
Yeah.
So anyway, I did that. Then Jennifer, which was such a wonderful experience. Ann Jillian, again, we just had dinner a couple months ago. I stay friends with a lot of people, dude. I just love
you're a friendly guy. Why not? I mean, these are really wonderful. And she was such a powerhouse and such a great comic too.
Totally. And singer.
Everything.
Yeah. She's so talented.
But unfortunately in Hollywood, sometimes shit doesn't work. And that ended up being like, you guys were one and done as far as a season.
Yeah.
And again, probably canceled with horrible ratings in like the 25 million zone of people watching it. You know how that goes, where it's like nowadays it would be the biggest hit on television.
Exactly.
Before we leave our teen idol era, what's the deal with your singing career? Was that part of this whole, was it a plan? Was it something from the Broadway era?
I always loved singing. I did some musical theater. I went on the road with Pippin and Peter Pan and so on and so forth. But I loved singing. I was approached by CBS Records kind of at the same time Scott Baio was doing his record.
Uh-huh.
And Kim Fields did a record back in those days. And I was just approached and I was like, that sounds like fun. But really, I got two incredible experiences out of doing the record. One, I got to perform on American Bandstand and interviewed by Dick Clark, which was unbelievable. Like that was
nice.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a dream come true. And then NBC, when I was on Jennifer's, when I had the album, they put me on my own float at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and I got to sing in front of Macy's in Herald Square on Thanksgiving morning.
For a New York kid, that's got to be pretty cool.
That was really cool. I got to say, those were two of my favorite things. Also, Barbara Bush in the day reached out to me to sing at the White House. I did Easter at the White House and had Easter dinner with the Bushes. And so that was an amazing experience. So the singing thing played a great role, and it didn't define me because I think people still remembered me more as an actor than a singer. I always considered myself an actor who could sing kind of thing.
Sure.
More so than just.
Well, again, and it was at that period of time where everyone was looking at each and every one of us who was coming up as a kid actor thinking, okay, well, can we get an album out of them type of thing? And I couldn't sing, but you could. And so obviously you had that experience. There's this is just reminding me when you were mentioning all these shows. I always thought back then, I still do, but now it's going to be different, that you and Adrian Zmed should have played brothers because you guys reminded me so much of each other. I don't know if it was the hair. I don't know if it was the attitude. Do you know Adrian or have any interactions with him?
I do. In fact, we've gotten connected in recent years. Adrian and I were Facebook friends and kind of chit chat every once in a while. But he used to hear it too, and so did I. This is not something new.
Really? So it's not just me.
No, I used to get it like Adrian Zmed, and then Adrian Zmed would get Glenn Scarpelli is like your younger brother. So you would think someone would have capitalized on that and put us in a freaking TV movie or something, but it never happened.
Right.
But I absolutely love Adrian. I mean, big fan. I'm a big fan, and he's a wonderful man. And yeah, we're still friends.
Okay, so we skipped over a bunch of stuff, which I meant to ask about.
Okay.
Let's see here. Scorsese, Bogdanovich, Peyton Reed. These are three directors that you've worked with that we didn't even talk about. So you worked with Bogdanovich on They All Laughed, which was famously the last movie that now our name is leaving me. Yeah, that Dorothy Stratton did.
Yeah.
Obviously, it seems like it's out of New York, so it's earlier, I would imagine, before One Day at a Time. What was that experience about?
It was right before One Day at a Time. That experience was incredible. John Ritter was one of the stars of that film, Audrey Hepburn, Ben Gazzara. It was just such an incredible film, getting to know Dorothy and really witnessing the love affair between Dorothy and Peter and really how much they loved each other. Like it was palpable on the set. It was after that. It was only like 3 weeks after we wrapped that, she went back to get a divorce and then he raped her and murdered her.
Right.
So it was very.
I auditioned for Peter for Paper Moon, and it was him and my old man. She started moonlighting. She's a big star. Can't believe I'm forgetting her name.
Sybil Shepherd.
Sybil Shepherd, yeah. So Sybil Shepherd answered the door. I walked in, and Bogdanovich and I talked for a while. I didn't get the part, of course, but I remember him, and he seemed very mannered, I guess would be the way to say it. That he was a very specific type of person that he worked at being. Yeah. Who did you get a chance to work with, like in scenes with? I haven't seen the film.
Was Audrey Hepburn. And
whoa, what's that like?
I played her son. All my scenes were with Audrey. I worked for about 5 weeks on the film every day with Audrey Hepburn. It was incredible. We certainly got to become friends. She was a buddy. There was one sequence, and I'll tell this short because I've told the story and it goes on. But there was a sequence where we're walking up Fifth Avenue, and Peter wanted to do it all with hidden cameras so that there was no extras or closing the street and so on and so forth. And so what they would do is they would just hide us in these stores on Fifth Avenue. And while we were waiting, no Star Wagons, no nothing. I mean, it was just me and Audrey Hepburn sitting in a corner in a bookstore or something waiting. And she would just be my guardian because my mom was up at the Plaza Hotel. And she would hold my hand and she would, so we were in this one store where it was a music store, bookstore, music store. And all these tapes of classical music. And she said, do you know anything about classical music? I said, honestly, I really don't know too much about it. And she said, let me teach you some things. So she walked me through, Bach and Brahms and all this stuff and gave me this history of classical music. It was certainly a passion of hers. And then at the wrap party, she gave me this present and she bought me those tapes. And she gave me those tapes of all that classical music. And she wrote, I was the only person, Patrick, to ever play her son in a feature film. She was never a mom in any other character, but in They All Laughed. And so she wrote, to my only movie son, and this beautiful letter from Audrey Hepburn. She was just so wonderful. Like everything you've heard about her maybe, or would think she was
right.
Plus more. She was a humanitarian.
Now, again, once again, we go back to, you must have seen Breakfast at Tiffany's and known who Audrey Hepburn was. So again, you don't seem to be too rattled by these people, but I guess I should open this question up. Of all these amazing people that you've worked with, was there anyone in particular that you were like, I can't wait to ask this person this question and meet them?
I don't know, probably not. I was going along my thing. And as you know, and I was just talking about this with my husband the other day, these were jobs, right?
Right.
So I remember you and Matt and Allison Ongram and Melissa even invited me to the set of Little House and I never went. And I'm like, what an idiot. But, I was busy doing my job. You're doing your job. I would have loved to have visited you guys on the set. It's so classic. I would have loved to have said I saw the set of Little House on the Prairie, but I just didn't. Missy Gold was an old friend of mine from Benson. I never went to see her show. She invited me so many times. It was like, I think a part of me, I'll speak for myself, took things for granted. So we were just going along doing our job. So meeting these people, working with these icons, just actors, you know what I mean? So,
well, the one I'm looking forward to speaking with Jill, because one of the things that she's uniquely qualified for that I don't think any of us are is on a daily basis, they brought in 6 megastars each week for her to work with on Love Boat, which, I've worked with a lot of great people and you've worked with a lot of great people, but she's got to be like, as far as who she's had a chance to work with. But it's like what you're saying, it doesn't feel special because it's your daily life. And when we talk about it here, or when you see a TV movie, or when there's one story told, it keeps getting condensed until it's this story where you go, I can't believe it. But it was like, there was 1,000 days that you went to work on one day at a time. There's 1,000 days that you were at Universal, or, it's like, and it just doesn't seem like you have to juice every day, because again, we're also kids,
right?
We don't know. We don't know what we're missing.
When you're saying like, is there someone I wanted to work with, or I don't know. I didn't think like that. I was a kid too. Like I have to always still put that in perspective. And I was able to work with all these great people. Like I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have Audrey Hepburn as part of my story. Al Pacino as part of the story. I'm so grateful. But I was never nervous. I didn't put people on pedestals. And I think Anne Bancroft really helped me with that. I think working with her first, I was so young. She helped me put that in perspective. She played
if you're friends with Anne Bancroft, it really doesn't matter much what your credits are. And when Al Pacino's giving you advice, it really doesn't matter much what. Well, it's so. But I am impressed by when you did Amazing Stories. You worked with Scorsese. And he was the director of this episode. My brother did an episode of Amazing Stories where Bob Balaban was the director, but Milton Berle was in it.
Right.
And so I was on the set all the time. What was your experience with that episode and Scorsese?
Well, I had become friends with Marty and his daughter, Kathy, who's still one of my closest BFFs in life. I am the godfather to her child. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I was doing an off-Broadway show, actually an off-Broadway show that went to Broadway for a short period of time called Street Heat. And at Studio 54 when they made it into a Broadway house. And Marty said, "Hey, Kathy, tell Glenn I want to come see the show." So he came one night by himself, came to see the show. And then a week later, I got offered this role. And, the casting director called and said, Martin Scorsese would like to offer this role. I said, "Well, when's the audition?" She said, "No, there is no audition. You got the part." And I was like, "Oh." So it was really wonderful and incredible. And I thank Kathy for all of that too. She and I, like I said, we're working on some projects together at the moment, actually. So I got to be on the set. Now I'll share with you, and this is a good transition to this story, bro. Because it was the time in my life when I was really looking like maybe I need to get out of acting because of this gay thing. I didn't want to be in the microscope anymore. I didn't need to be the teen idol guy that everyone was asking, "Who's your girlfriend? Who's your girlfriend?" Like I was getting really
Right.
and I was really yearning for a relationship, like a connection that was authentic to me. And so I did Amazing Stories, and I was sitting with Marty, and I said, I'm getting a little disillusioned with acting. That's how I phrased it. All this, what I'm sharing with you is what was behind that statement.
Right.
So it was, I'm getting disillusioned with acting. And he said, "You should go to NYU. I went to NYU. You should still be creative, but behind the scenes, you don't have to be an actor all the time. You've been doing it since you were a kid." So he got all excited about the idea of still being in show business. So he made a phone call for me because I said it's too late in the season. It was like August, and I was like, I did okay on my SATs, but it's too late to get in there now. He goes, "If you really want to get in there, I'll make a phone call for you." And he did.
Wow.
He did. And I got a phone call from the dean of NYU the next day saying that if I would like to, I'm being invited to join them at NYU Film School. So I did that. That's what I did. So
amazing.
Yeah, it was.
How did you like it?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. Twofold. I loved college, but what I really needed was some time in Manhattan. Manhattan is the greatest place to just blend in with everybody else, and no one really sees you anymore. And it's just like this whole thing, and whoever you want to be is totally accepted there. And it was the perfect scenario. And I met this wonderful guy. And even though that chapter was about like out there in the world, I'm going to college. I'm leaving acting to go to college. But what I was really leaving acting for was to be gay.
Was there any auxiliary emotions involved with that? Was there any anger at having, did you want to stop acting, or did you just want the attention? Obviously, I can imagine wanting to be yourself is huge. That drives more than anything. But were you frustrated that it meant giving something up?
I mean, I did give up a thriving career. Like I was still being offered stuff. I was still being offered tours and all kinds of fun things at the time that I did turn down. So there was that, but no, the drive to be authentic and to just want to connect with a man and to be able to do that for real and fall in love and have all those feelings. I was ready for it. I'm now, 18, 19. And in that first year of college, I did meet Gary Scalzo was his name. I always like to say his name out loud because it keeps his memory alive. He died of AIDS at the age of 36 in 1992. He got diagnosed in 87. We were together for 1 year at that point. We were together 7 years total. I was his caretaker. I felt his last heartbeat. We went through all the things that our community went through in those days, Patrick, which was very tough. There was so much discrimination. People wouldn't touch us, nurses wouldn't even help him. Like it was like that, and it made us such a strong couple. He knew I was really there for him. I needed that privacy. I didn't want to do that publicly. I mean, I didn't know that.
I can't even imagine how you would negotiate something like that. And because you're in your 20s. It's like you're just a baby still. Yeah.
I buried him when I was 25. He was 36. We were 11 years old.
Oh my God.
And so it was a life-changing thing. So my life took a different turn for sure. I didn't finish college. I wound up coming back to Los Angeles because Gary was a theatrical manager. He discovered Elijah Wood. I don't know if you
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
he discovered Elijah Wood and got him booked on Radio Flyer, an old movie, Radio Flyer, and so on and so forth. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, he handled Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So, it was an interesting time because it was a transitional time for me. But really what happened was this amazing self-awareness that came from it. And now I can look
Right.
back on that era honestly, and I thank God every day and I thank Gary every day for sharing his death with me, because it is the person you're talking to right now. Like, I wouldn't be who I am and been able to do what I've done with my life had I not had that experience.
Well, it's tragic and beautiful all at the same time. And aside from everything else, between what was his name, Scalzo?
Yes.
Could you guys be more Italian?
I know, right? Now I'm with a Richie. Even I got another one.
How much manicotti is made in that kitchen?
Exactly.
All right, yeah, because your IMDb stops around 95, so you go off and you do that, but then you end up working with Peyton Reed on a thing called Gregory Brothers, a TV movie.
Oh yeah.
And I worked with Peyton on Yes Man. I like Peyton.
Wow.
What was that? I don't know anything about that. Is there any story there, or is it just another gig?
Okay, so I took gigs along the way when they were offered to me. Like, I always loved acting, and I think this goes back to your other question. Did I give up? Yeah, because I always feel that that's who I was. What the gift I got was to not limit myself as I'm the actor. I became all these other things and discovered all these other talents. I became an entrepreneur. I opened businesses and I was able to run these businesses and grow these businesses, some successful, some not. I made investments. Like, I found out all these other parts of myself that was so healthy.
Sure.
But things would come along. So my friend Mark Hirschfeld, who is
I know Mark. Mark was our casting director.
And so was ours too. He cast that. And he and I had, I don't know, we had dinner or something. And he said, I have this audition I want to throw you in on. Would you do it? I said, yeah. And I did it and I got the part. And so that was thanks to Mark Hirschfeld. So there were things that I would do along the way. I still do. I mean, I did one day.
Well, I got to say, I thought you were a good actor when you were a kid, because kid actors, but if you're a kid actor and you get regular work, you got to be good. I mean, basically that's just the way it worked back then. And so I thought you were a good actor, and no butts or anything like that. But I just saw a clip of Sacred.
Vice versa to you and your brother too. You guys were really good actors. Yes.
Well, you have the ability to, it's the people you work with, and you just steal their stuff, and then you're a better actor. But I saw a clip of you and Mackenzie in Sacred Journeys. This is literally off your demo reel, off of IMDb. And I teach acting, and you could just tell you're such a more mature actor. You're such a better actor than you were before. There's a patience and a calmness to your acting, where as a kid actor, you're always basically pleasing is a big part of it. I want to make sure everyone's happy. I want to make sure I do my job. But with this performance I saw, and again, I only saw a couple minutes of it, so I don't want to overstate, my knowledge of this, but I think you're such a better actor than you were before. Where do you feel at that level? How would you comment on that? I mean, do you think you're a better actor?
First of all, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I think what acting is about discovering parts of yourself. And I think that's why so many actors are experimental in what they do in their lives, because you have to know how to express these other people, right? These other parts, these roles. So because I've had such life experience, like, I've dug deep, dude. After he died, I was angry at the world, angry at God. What is this all about? I gave up everything. You took him from me. Now what do I have? I was broke. Everything, my entire childhood fortune went to his healthcare, because in those days, no insurance companies would, cover anything for AIDS.
Right.
So there was that. I had nothing. I was stripped of everything. And it was the greatest gift, because I was able to rebuild in such a nourished, colorful, real way these different parts of myself, and healing my burdens, my traumas, my childhood traumas. Like, these are the deep shit in life. You know what I mean? So when I have these opportunities to act, I feel I bring this whole new level and these different layers that I've discovered of myself, and it's just another expression.
That's exactly what you have to do. And it's tragedy that, opens up a lot of stuff, but I won't say rare, but it's very clear when someone has acknowledged that and allowed that into their art. Because sometimes people just close off. Sometimes you take a shot like that in life and it's like, oh, I'm done, close for business. And you close everything and there's no empathy. There's no discovery. There's no anything. It's just sort of like, you're just a dead husk.
Well, I got to tell you, people ask me what I do for a living. And I say, I am a seeker of self-awareness. That's my number one job. People think I own a TV station and, all this other stuff that I do that we'll eventually plug and talk about. But I don't believe that's what I do. I believe my job on this planet is to grow spiritually and to evolve and to learn what I can while I'm here. I believe Earth is the learning planet, and that's why we experience pain, because sometimes through our pain we learn the most. And that's, there is pain on this planet. None of us get out of this planet without some sort of trauma and pain. It's just the way it is. So it's about what we do with that knowledge. I shared with you earlier before we got on the air, I always say, I don't lose, I just learn. So there's all.
Yeah, that's a great. I was just talking to another guest and they were talking about, when you are challenged by something that, growth only happens when there's pain, because when you're comfortable, nothing really is pushing you to change anything or to grow. Right. Not that I look forward to that by any means.
I'll share this with you though, and that is true. I'm not negating what you're saying, but there is also, you could find levels of yourself and grow through joy. We really can. It's really becomes just awareness. It's all about awareness and consciousness.
That's true. Absolutely. If you're self-aware enough to realize, I've accomplished something and be happy about it, or look out and see it's a beautiful day, which in Sedona, man, forget about it. It's gorgeous. You just look at those mountains and you go, yeah, there's something bigger than me for sure.
I mean, I feel that way. I'm not religious, but I am certainly consider myself a spiritual being. So there is that, but yeah, joy teaches us too, but it's these big, powerful moments of darkness where we have to scratch through and find the light. And those are the big awakening moments. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And I've had so many of them. My home burned to the ground. I mean, with all the fires going out there, I lost everything I had out here in 2008, including that Audrey Hepburn letter. And I got to tell you, when I watched my home burned in 45 minutes. And as I was sitting there watching my home burn, it was electrical fire in my home. And I literally thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose the Audrey Hepburn letter. Like, that was one of those things that I mourned.
Yeah, you can't get that at Target.
And Pacino gave me his costume from Richard III when we closed the show. He gave me the shirt, literally the shirt off his back. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm losing the Pacino costume today. So yeah, it was interesting. But through these moments, like, I'll share with you one life lesson I learned from that was attachments. Okay, so like, the Buddhists say that attachment is what creates suffrage, because we're attached to an outcome, we're attached to a thing, we're attached to who we think we are. And it's through the disappointment sometimes of those attachments that we create suffrage in our life. But if we're free of attachments, we're free of the suffrage too. So one thing that taught me was how much of those things I thought defined me. I thought we think we are our stuff. I am the only person that played her son in a movie, and I have proof because she wrote it. You know what I mean? Like, identity for all these things, and they're still just things, and we're all going to die, and we're not going to be able
and the experience is still valid. I mean, your experience with her doesn't ever go away, because that's the real thing that happened.
We hold that in our heart, and that's what we are, is our souls. We hold things in our memory banks, and that's what counts. So that even taught me a tremendous lesson. But like, the world has put a lot of things in my path to say, okay, you gotta learn.
Sure seems like it.
I'm officially obsessed, and you will be too. If you haven't tried Lem by Hello Nancy yet, what are you doing? Over 1 million women are using it, and the reviews are wild. One girl literally said, "Join the incredibly satisfied brigade." I didn't believe it until I tried it myself. The hype is 100% real. Don't let the cute design fool you. Go to hellonancy.com and see what the hype is about.
Be back after these messages.
Hey there, my name is Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV. And I also have this acting school called Working Actors School. And what we do there is we teach people to act using Zoom. So you can take an acting class with me and with a person in Connecticut, in Florida, and San Diego all at the same time, thanks to the miracle of Zoom. And besides classes, I also offer a one-on-one session. It's an hour just between you and me working on a particular piece of material, whether it's for an upcoming audition or maybe you're working on something and you need to have that breakthrough moment. These are really, really fun, and they're really, really great because they're really personalized and intense in all the good ways that intense can be. So if you're working on something, if you want to break through, if you want to have a one-on-one session where you're not working with other people, this is the way to do it. All the information is in the classes page on workingactorsschool.com.
Act 4. Questions.
Well, let's get to some easy things because these are questions that you will be able to answer because they're all about you and you will know the answers because no one else will. So here are the questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, this question is called That's Showbiz. What is your most Hollywood moment?
My most Hollywood moment, I think, was the first time I ever went to the Golden Globes, and the show was nominated, Bonnie was nominated, and Valerie was nominated, and Valerie won, and she thanked me during her speech, and I just was so thrilled. I never expected her to say my name at all,
right,
in any way, shape, or form. And I consider that a real Hollywood moment.
Being mentioned in the Golden Globes? Yeah, absolutely. While you're there, that's pretty Hollywood. So let's go to the other one. That's Showbiz Part 2, the most embarrassing Hollywood moment.
Oh, gosh. The one that just popped in my head was I did a week of Celebrity Family Feud as a kid, and I was in the bonus round with Missy Gold and Richard Dawson, who, of course, the classic host of Family Feud, asked this question: name something to which you lose your key. And she went first, and she didn't know what the heck that meant, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" So he stopped the clock. He had to explain it to her. Blah blah blah. Now I come out, older guy, my little thin little 80s tie, looked all sharp. And he goes, name something to which you lose your key. And I said, excuse me, repeat the question. And the whole audience cracked up because Missy and I were two freaking idiots, not understanding what the heck he meant by name something to which you lose your key. And this is on, of course, the YouTubes all over the place. And I hear from people every week talking about my embarrassing moment on Family Feud. So that's going to be
in your defense, that's a really awkwardly way to ask that question.
I mean,
I will say.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I wound up with door key was my answer, and it was the number one answer. We actually won.
Yeah.
But just the whole moment was so embarrassing.
As you're asking me, I'm thinking door, car, and song. And I don't know if they would go with that direction, but there you go.
Door and car were the two that we came up with. So they were there. Okay. Very smart, Patrick.
All right. So third question, show me the money. What is your biggest missed financial opportunity? I'm not looking for numbers, but like in this business, you're always around opportunities that you're like, oh, if I had just blanked. So what is your biggest missed financial opportunity?
Well, I think there's been a couple, but the one that pops in my head the most is I had an opportunity when Soho was really in bad shape in New York to buy a loft in Soho for about 50 grand. And I kept an eye on that thing, and it went recently for, I think, something like $11 million. So I would say maybe that was the one I should have jumped on.
Maybe, yeah. Oh, God. Okay, so show and tell. As a teenager, which is where we've been living for a while, what was your favorite poster in your room and how did you come to obtain it?
Oh, my favorite poster was a Van Halen poster. and was so interesting because like I said, I'd always loved Van Halen, right? And then I get to meet Eddie. And then when they finally showed my bedroom on One Day at a Time, the first time they ever showed it, I sat with the art department and they said, "What do you want on the walls?" And I said, "I want Van Halen posters." So that's what I put on the walls. I put on Van Halen posters, which was also this subconscious, Valerie had just married Eddie and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, my Van Halen poster I had for years.
So it's another thing we have in common. Their marriage ruined both of our crushes.
True.
I did this TV pilot, which never went, with a bunch of great people in it. And one of them was a girl by the name of Allison Roth, and her brother is David Lee Roth. And so when it was this, we were in dorms at like at a boarding school, and in her room, she had David Lee Roth up on her wall, which I thought was kind of
wow.
But Van Halen's a big deal.
Well, I got to know them really well, of course. And one of my favorite Van Halen moments for me, being on tour, I went with Val to Philadelphia, and I got to hang out backstage before the show. And Eddie would tune up and just play and warm up in this tiny little room that was just filled with just speakers, basically. And it was just Ed, Val, and I. And I sat there in awe going, I can't believe, and Ed was like so kind to me. He was like a brother-in-law. He turned out to be like a brother-in-law to me. So he was just like, "Oh, come on, dude, let's hang out." And he was just warming up. And I'm like, all I hear is this fucking rock god warming up in this room that was so loud, but it was this tiny little room. It was just the three of us. So I treasure that moment.
Yeah, he's an amazing personality. I've never met him, but I'm certainly a big fan. And I always think of him and a guy like Prince, or name a person where they have a relationship with music that's primary, and then the world and humans and everything else comes after that, and they're kind of connected directly to it. And it's just sort of like when you're around those people. I've been around a couple, not Eddie, where you're just like, yeah, that's not something I have with that, but it's amazing when you see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so showdown. What is the best thing you ever did and the worst thing you ever did professionally? What's your favorite performance and your least favorite performance?
My favorite performance. God, that's a really tough question, actually. There was one scene on One Day at a Time that I treasure. It was really the scene where it was in my first season of the show, and Bonnie slaps me. People know it as the slapping scene.
Yeah.
Bonnie slapped two people in the show, me and Mackenzie. So Mac and I always talk about that as our one of our bonding things, is like we both know what it feels like to be slapped by Bonnie Franklin. And Bonnie slapped us both for real. We went for it in the scene. And I love that scene. It was the first scene Bonnie and I really knew we had a chemistry. And I think it's what kept me on the show, even because they brought Mackenzie back, which, by the way, I do want to say, circling back to what we said, it was a very happy time when Mackenzie came back to the show. Also,
I would imagine. I mean, look, anytime you've got a family member that's unhealthy and then they become healthy again, it's a relief, and it's just a joy.
It was always a joy. That's all those years on the show were wonderful for me. But Mackenzie and I have that in common with the slapping thing. So I love that scene. It meant more than what's just on the screen because of the nature of how Bonnie and I connected. It brought us so close, and that was a friendship that lasted till the day she died. Like, I was so close to Bonnie.
Wow.
I would watch her dogs when she traveled and stuff like that. So we were very, very close. So that was our first real moment of, wow, like, I really love acting with you. So I say that as my...
That's a good choice. That's a really great... I mean, I know the scene. It's famous. And I think you were really good in it, for sure. And I think that, in any other business, hitting a child is not part of the job. And it kind of is in our business.
Right.
And it's kind of okay. I'm fine with that as well.
I wanted it to happen.
Because you're pretending. Yeah, it's pretend. And it's not like, it isn't real life, but it definitely adds to the reality of the situation as an actor, because you're feeling the physicality of it.
Right. And that whole idea of, does art imitate life? Does life imitate art? When you could blend those two where life is art, then, it becomes, people feel how authentic that is. So I really wanted her to hit me. So my least favorite, Gosh, there was a few episodes of Jennifer Slept Here that I think I could have done better. I that show was very different than One Day, and I had slipped from that into Jennifer, which was a lot sillier. I had the
Right.
greatest time. I'm not putting the show down, but it was just a very different blend of characters. And there were some where I watched it.
You were kind of like I want to say boy, girl, crazy best friend or crazy best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I overacted in a few episodes. I think I do. I look at it now and I go, oh God, oi, oi, oi. I don't think I was good in every episode. I think there were good moments that I had. But I don't think
Right.
look, we only did 13 episodes, and sometimes it takes time to really capture, the feel of
Sure. Oh yeah. And look, how many shows the first season Jag is a perfect example. Jag is not the same show the second season it is the first.
Right.
There's a lot of things that can happen.
Yes.
Okay,
You were
final
so good at
question.
Jag, by the way. I love Jag, dude.
Oh, thank you. Which leads into this question, which is show me some love. What is your favorite performance of mine?
Wow.
There's so many to choose from.
Yeah. No. Okay. So recently, oh my God, is it Heathers? Is that the name
Yep.
of the film?
Yeah, yeah.
So I love doing Heathers. Okay. And I got to say, we watched it recently. And because John and I love to find older film, like we share, like, here's one I loved as a kid. Here's one I love. We met at middle-aged, and we've only been married 2 years. But it was one of those where we share films, and I picked Heathers. And
Oh, cool.
I love that film, and I think you're so good in it.
Thanks, man. That's my favorite project, by the way. If I was to answer, that is my favorite. I loved being a part of it. You could tell when you read the script, and it's so different even to this day. People, they tried to do a TV show and they just couldn't figure it out. Oh, which leads me to a question which I didn't actually have here. What was your thought of seeing a remake of One Day at a Time? I mean, you did an episode, but like, what do you think of that?
I was all for it from day one because it was Norman Lear. Now, if it was like other people and it wasn't Norman, I'd be like, what are they thinking? This is
Right.
But Norman did it, and with his very talented partner Brent Miller, who I love, who became a dear friend. When Norman wrote his book, Even This I Get to Experience, and if you haven't read it, I suggest you do. It's a fabulous book. We brought Norman out for an evening with Norman Lear at the Sedona Performing Arts Center. I produced the evening.
Wow.
We brought Mackenzie out, and she and I moderated the evening, and it was just so wonderful. So Norman and I stayed friends and certainly connected. That was a big part of our reconnection, honestly, face to face. I hadn't seen him in some years, and we stayed really close. And I was always a supporter of that. We went to one of the second or third tapings, Mackenzie and I, and Norman was doing the warm up for the audience at
Wow.
Snoop.
At 115.
Yeah, he was 93 at the time, I think. He died at 101. He signed a 3-year development deal with Sony at 97 because he said, I can't do more than 3 years. I really can't guarantee past 100. So that's who Norman Lear is, right? So I love the show. I think they did an amazing job. I think it was a reimagining. They never called it a reboot because it really wasn't the same show. But it was a chance for Norman to have a voice socially of things that are going on today. And with a Latino cast, and especially working with Rita Moreno was so incredible. Justina.
She's amazing.
Oh my gosh, that whole cast was so fantastic. But Norman was doing the warm-up. It was like the third episode. He brought Mackenzie and I out in front of the audience, and we had so much fun. And then, as you know, in season 3, as you mentioned, he and Brett called me and said, hey, listen, we're not sure we're going to get picked up again, but it would be a big faux pas if we didn't invite you on the show. So
that's nice. Again, you did a good job on that as well. I thought that it was, so many times when people return to acting after not acting for a while, there's so much try hard energy that you fell into the pocket, which I thought was really, again, an example of professionalism, which, good for you, man.
Thank you for saying that. It means so much, Patrick, really.
Epilogue. And so now we're to the epilogue, where we get to plug away, baby. So plug away. I want to claim this title, the Sultan of Sedona.
Yeah.
And so tell me, what is going on in your world?
I'll take Sultan. I love Sedona. During my spiritual walkabout after Gary died, I found Sedona. I've been here 33 years.
Wow.
It was a calling. It's just brought me so much love and peace, and I just feel so embedded in the community in such a beautiful way. I love this community. I opened a TV station 23 years ago. It's called Sedona Now TV. You can find us at sedonanow.com if you want to take a peek at what we do. We are all the fun things to see and do in the area. We promote tourism. We show you all the fun things. I'm very hooked up, Patrick. So when you come visit me, and I hope you do, we have lots of guest rooms here. You could stay. I can hook you up at a hotel, whatever you need. But we have fun things. We have Jeep tours and helicopter rides. And I'm hooked up. So wonderful restaurants where
you are the Sultan of Sedona. I'm not kidding, man. I think that if Huell Hauser was the dude in LA, you're the dude in Sedona.
I feel very fortunate to have had the life I have. That was part of my discovering my entrepreneurship by recognizing a need in the community and recognizing that, look, I've been in show business all my life. I didn't want to move here and not be in show business on some level. So I had to bring
showbiz to the desert. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I'm bringing it with me as opposed to looking for a job and complaining about life and playing this victim to, I moved here and there's no jobs for me. I just made one and it took off.
Beautiful.
So here we are. We've been on the air 23 years. I also host segments called Traveler TV segments for Scripps Media, and they own ABC stations throughout the country. And I'm seen every week on Sonoran Living, their morning show on ABC 15 in Phoenix, statewide here in Arizona. But we're also seen in Tucson, San Diego, Las Vegas, Denver, and other stations as needed. But
fantastic, a full-on empire.
Those segments are so fun, dude. I get to shoot them right on location. We go up to the Grand Canyon. We take, all kinds of whatever there is to do fun in the area, kayaking, canyon coasters, Jeep tours, whatever's fun in the area, we get to do. We get to eat at the finest restaurants, do wonderful cooking segments. So I love my life. I love my job.
Well, it's been amazing talking with you, Glenn. I'm so glad we got a chance to catch up, and thank you for taking the time to do it, because I know you've got a very busy schedule. Sedona doesn't run itself.
Yeah, hello. And we had to reschedule this a couple of times, so thank you for weaving through that with me, bro.
Not a problem. And I expect you to hook me up with Valerie at some point. But aside from that, we're good. But thank you so much for doing the show. And we will be in contact. And again, just really great job, man.
Great to see you, bro. I've always really appreciated our friendship. You're a wonderful guy.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. I'm really, really glad you're here and checking out the podcast. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts. It's a video podcast over on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you get the video ones. All of my socials are Working Actors School on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Please check us out. If you want any information about the school, it is at workingactorsschool.com. We've got classes going on all the time. And again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.
Hey, we're Stacy and Pete, and we host We Don't Want to Grow Up, a podcast all about those warm and fuzzy memories from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
We're revisiting the pop culture, toys, and memories that shaped a generation.
Gen X, Millennials, and I'm over here representing the Zennials. So if you ever experienced waiting for your Delia's catalog to show up after school, or if you got lost wandering the aisles of Toys R Us, this show's for you. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are available.